What's up, everyone? Welcome to the FAA podcast. Good to have Jimmy back.
I'm here.
Finals week, great times, living life, loving life.
We're loving it.
Well, we also loved the NFL draft over the weekend. A couple sleepless nights for me, draft work all night. But yeah, it's great. 257 picks in the books. Draft coming here next year in Green Bay. But yeah, that's what we're gonna start off with. We're gonna go right to the draft before we get to the UFL Week 5. But yeah, so let's just start off favorite picks in each round.
All right, let me pull up the draft real quick just to remember who was picked where. So I'm guessing you did just round 1 on Friday. You didn't get to round 2 through 7.
For what?
For your favorite picks, I'm guessing.
Oh no, yeah, we're gonna go through all 7 rounds.
Oh, all 7? Okay, great. All right. I mean, I'm gonna try not to just say, "Ooh, this guy was the best player." I mean, because the easy favorite pick for the first round is Caleb Williams at 1. I mean, it's the obvious. But a pick I really like, and it's such a homer pick, but Dallas Turner at 17 to Minnesota is an insane value. I mean, I think I saw a couple of like draft simulators and draft calculators that said Dallas Turner getting all the way to 17 only happened like 3% of the time. So getting him at 17 and trading up for him and not giving up a first round pick next year, I thought that was amazing by Minnesota. I thought that was a great pick. I also love the Quinyon Mitchell pick at 22.
Bro, why are you stealing my thunder?
I'm just sharing the love, man. I love Quinyon at 22. I think he's the best corner in the draft, and getting the best corner in the draft at 22 is genuinely insane work. And I'm gonna go with my final favorite pick of the first round, another corner at 30. I think the Ravens getting Nate Wiggins at 30 is a very good pick. I know the Ravens could have went wide receiver. There was a need there, but not getting either Brian Thomas Jr. or Xavier Worthy already drafted. I think they went with probably the next best thing in terms of needs in corner. And I think I'm really high on Nate Wiggins. I think his speed will be a massive asset to that defense. And I think at 30, it's incredible value.
Yeah, so all 3 of my teams did pretty well on the first round. But yeah, Quinyon Mitchell was definitely the number one. Also a 3% odds that he would be there at 22. So all the talk of Howie Roseman trading up to get a corner, and then he has every single corner available at 22, as we saw NFL history with the first 14 picks being offensive players. Yeah, that one was just awesome, attacking a big need that we saw down the stretch for Philly. Another one that, of course, I have loved for months now, Bo Nix to the Broncos. Told y'all he was going to Denver. I thought it was fine to go at 12 if they needed to, which they did. 5 quarterbacks gone already. Their division rival Raiders coming up. I have to believe that the Raiders were going to take Bo Nix if the Broncos didn't. So I thought it was a necessity to take him there, but I still love the fit. He's going to be perfect in Sean Payton's offense, and I think he's fine to start day one because of the football IQ that Bo has, and I think him and Sean are going to share a really special connection there in Denver. The last one I'll say, since you did 3 as well, Graham Barton to the Bucks. I absolutely loved that one. Perfect need at center with Ryan Jensen retiring. Day one starter there in Tampa as the pivot for Baker Mayfield in that offense. Picks that I hated. Brock Bowers to the Raiders. That was the dumbest pick I've seen. Everyone's talking Michael Penix. I think Brock Bowers was stupid to the Raiders. They already drafted Michael Mayer in the second round last year. Made absolutely no sense to have him. I understand they're not going to put him in line probably a lot. They're going to have him just catch the ball and not have a block. The thing is, Brock is the most complete tight end in the draft. He can block. He's a great blocker. He's pretty much a sixth lineman out there with how well he blocks. So I think it's really a disrespectful if you only put him out wide and have him not block enough. So I don't really see the vision there for the Raiders. That was like the biggest one. I know everyone's talking about Penix though.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Penix has been talked to death. I don't think we really need to get into it.
Yeah.
I think my biggest problem, and I found this also shared a lot, in the Twitter space with people complaining about this pick. This pick would have made a ton more sense if it was JJ McCarthy. Because JJ McCarthy was the youngest QB in the draft. He's 21. If you want him to sit behind Kirk for a couple years, then he's still younger. The problem I have with Penix is he is 24, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's 24. That's a massive difference in age. So, like, if you wanted to draft a guy that was going to sit behind Kirk Cousins for a couple years, JJ McCarthy just made a ton more sense. Penix is the kind of guy you draft and you say, go week one, because he's older in age. He's far more refined. He doesn't really have that situation where he needs to sit and wait. Again, I think that just makes it even less sensible. If it was JJ McCarthy, I could get some sense of it. Okay, it's a younger QB. You have him at 21, but getting a 24-year-old in the top 10 to be a backup quarterback for X amount of years, even if it's only 2 years, it didn't make a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, 6-year starter in college at Indiana and Washington. I liked it. I made a lot of money on it, Jimmy.
So you like your value
fine. But yeah, I mean, I see why everyone's hating on it, but again, it's better to have to figure that out later. I'd rather have a 26-year-old starter, first-time starter that has learned from a really good quarterback in Kirk Cousins for a couple seasons than not have a succession plan. And that's how the Falcons have pretty much came out and defended it. It's the most important position in football, and to not have to worry about it for the next 10 to 15 years,
You never know if you have to worry about it.
Right. But at least you have a plan. You don't have to worry about it. Maybe not the 10 to 15, like I said, but you definitely know you don't have to worry about the quarterback position for the Atlanta Falcons for probably at least the next 5 years.
Yeah. And I think the point is, and this could be a justification, you don't know how Kirk Cousins is going to look after the torn Achilles.
Could get hurt again.
He could get hurt, and the argument could be if he gets hurt, I'd rather have the more refined, older, polished quarterback backing him up than the younger JJ McCarthy with more, room to grow. So that could be a decent explanation if that's their justification. Again, it's still a weird one. It's still very much a weird one.
We saw that with the Jets. Zach Wilson, a young quarterback, played pretty crappy with New York. So just saying. All right, round two. Picks that I really liked. I'm gonna go back to the Eagles, of course. We were texting in our scouting group chat, and I was like, dude, Cooper's falling. Like, it's time, Howie. It's time to go get him. And then when I saw the pick has been traded from the Commanders, no less, which I thought was very intriguing. Interdivision trade. Always very, very fun to watch how they play out. But, I was like, dude, Howie's going to get him. And that he did. Howie got what I think is the best two corners in the draft. And what I said, I think Cooper DeJean was the best defensive back in the entire draft. So,
yeah, I mean that's getting back-to-back top flight corners in the Eagles organization, two of easily the top 5 corner prospects in this draft back-to-back is insane. That's absurd, you know. And jumping a team that you knew had a ton of interest in getting Cooper to do it, I thought it was great. I thought it was great work by Howie. I mean, he does it again. He just continues to do it.
also loved my other two teams' picks. I'm just Homer City in the especially at the beginning of the draft. I really enjoyed all three of my teams. Jonathan Brooks to the Panthers, my number one running back, who I thought and some others thought as well was by far the best running back. Complete back, probably would have gone round one had he not torn his ACL after 10 games this season. But he had over 1,100 yards through 10 games, including at least one 200-yard performance, if I remember the stats correctly. But very excited that they went back to get some picks. And most importantly, they got a second-round pick next year from the Rams in that trade back to 52. And then they came back up to 46 to draft Brooks, who, looking at the teams that they jumped, I kind of understand it. The Giants, I believe, would have had interest. I know they signed Devin Singletary this offseason, but they really didn't have a future there, even though they had a couple other draft picks in Gary Brightwell and Eric Gray on the roster. The Bengals also could have been one interested as well. So maybe those were the only two probably, but you never know. The Cowboys could have been lurking to come up from 56 as well. But as we saw, they didn't draft one. So, and then the Steelers, Zach Frazier, everyone's talking about the wrestling. Awesome. I loved him, watching him at the combine workout where no one thought he was going to work out. He looked awesome coming off the broken leg. And he's just a mauler, and he understands coming from West Virginia. He understands that like Pittsburgh mentality, and he's going to add to the long lineage of great centers in the Pittsburgh Steelers history.
A second-round pick I really liked, and it's another center. I got to give a lot of credit to the Raiders. I like Jackson Powers Johnson to them. You and I were both very much on the why'd you get Brock Bowers in the first round? You had a ton of need in offensive line. You could have gotten Fuaga or Mims, or Morgan or anything. But they went Bowers, and it was a head scratcher. But I think this kind of worked back in their favor. They addressed the need. They got a guy that I thought was going to go in the 20s in Jackson Powers Johnson. I like the pick. I think that's a good pick by the Raiders.
Oh, I don't.
You don't?
I don't like it because he's not going to play center. They drafted him as a guard, which I understand he can play all three probably. But I thought JPJ was best at center. They told Andre James that he is going to be the starting center going forward. So JPJ is going to slot in at guard, which, okay, he's still got a good player, but I still think he's best at center.
I mean,
so I didn't like that pick necessarily.
Teams always say things to players. I mean, the Falcons didn't tell Kirk Cousins they were drafting a QB until 2 minutes before they drafted him. So you never know, But I still like it. I think I've been high on Jackson Powers Johnson for a while, and I think getting him in the second round is very, very solid. I'm trying to look for other picks I like. I like Adonai Mitchell at 52. I thought that was really good value. I thought Adonai was going to go late first to I thought they were going to go to 49ers or Carolina, maybe even Buffalo, but going all the way to 52 to the Colts, that's pretty solid. And we had wide receivers in need for the Colts, and getting Adonai was a pretty good get.
Yeah, that slide was very weird. Apparently it's because of his effort. Apparently he didn't interview well in Indianapolis as well. So that's what I heard on why he slid to 52.
Yeah. And I do remember seeing Chris Ballard coming out after the draft, and someone asked him if it was a character thing, and he really went at it, defending his guy, Adonai Mitchell. So maybe there's something. I never really put how 20-year-olds interview with a lot of stock. I mean, most of these guys are socially awkward football players that all they know how to do is play football, and this is their first, first real media test. And sure, a lot of them are going to flounder because this is new to them, but it doesn't. I usually think it's overblown a lot of times when it comes to just how kids interview.
Last plus for round 2, the Packers overall. Javon Bullard plus Edgerrin Cooper hit 2 big needs. Loved most of what the Packers did all 3 days.
Yeah. It makes me sad that my whole division drafted super well. My whole division was great. I hate it.
In terms of second round ones that I did not like, I was not a fan of the Lions. Love the player, Enos Rakestraw, but to take back-to-back corners, I didn't really see it. I didn't have corner as a need on my board for Detroit. I understand they had the Cam Sutton situation, but they traded for Carlton Davis. So I understood Tyrion Arnold, cool, but I didn't see the need to take back-to-back corners. I thought they needed edge a lot more, and there were quality players still available at the edge rush position at that point.
Yeah, I honestly thought they were either going to do edge like Ellis. I thought they were going to go Ellis. But even if you look at the 2 picks behind Rakestraw and Roger Rosengarten and Kingsley Sumatai, I can't say Suamatea. I thought if either of those guys went to the Lions, I thought, oh, that makes some sense. It gets some O-line depth. But yeah, I mean, we've been speaking highly of Rakestraw. We genuinely thought he'd be picked higher. So maybe this is a value thing for them, but I don't know. You already had Tyrion Arnold. You had other needs, and there were players that you could have got that position for good value to fill those needs. Maybe they just really liked him and didn't want to see him pass. I think another one, I don't think it's an awful pick, but it was kind of a head scratcher because A, this team traded up, and B, there was another player at that position that I thought was better. The Falcons trading up to get Rook, however you say his name. Aroha. I thought that was really weird, especially with Johnny Newton still on the board.
Johnny was right after, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right after. I mean, if it's a scheme fit, maybe you know better than me. I don't exactly know the schemes of the defensive scheme of the Falcons off the top of my head.
Yeah, they ran a 3-4, but
yeah,
they didn't re-sign Calais Campbell. So it made interior D line was a need. Pass rush overall was a need for Atlanta. But yeah, like you said, there were much better D tackles and interior D linemen with more upside, more pass rush upside.
Yeah, I would almost take the 3 D linemen taken after him, like Johnny Newton, Tavondre Sweat, and Braden Fisk. I would almost pick any of those 3 over Rook.
Yeah,
but maybe they liked him a little more. So I don't know. It was a little shocking, especially trading up to get a guy that I think they probably could have waited and got.
Yeah, it was very odd. The defensive tackle run that occurred on the beginning of round 2 was very weird.
Yeah, speaking of that, I mean, I guess that slide of Tavondre Sweat never happened. We all kind of expected it after the DUI incident, but it never took place.
Yeah, it was very questionable what the Titans did to a lot of people. Apparently, they were okay with the situation. Apparently, they were okay with the character. And pre-DWI, like this was pretty much the area that you thought he might have gone anyways. But yeah, it was weird that he didn't slide like most players do whenever they have something that close to the draft.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah.
On to round 3. Go ahead, Jimmy.
A pick I like. I'm just reading through just to get myself kind of reacquainted with the guys that were picked. A pick I like, and it's pretty straightforward. The Cowboys have done really well revamping that offensive line. I think getting Cooper Beebe at 73 alongside Guyton in the first round, I thought that was very good. Offensive line management, you're taking high upside. I think Cooper Beebe makes a ton of sense for what the Cowboys are trying to build there. And I do like that pick. What's another good one? I mentioned his name earlier. Jonah Ellis to Denver at 76. I really like that pick. Like you mentioned earlier, I thought Ellis was going to go to the Lions at the end of the second round, and to go all the way to 12th overall pick in the third round at 76. I thought that was great. I thought that was really good patience by Denver getting your guy, helping that defense. So I like both of those picks. Those, I would say, are probably my two favorites so far in the third.
What do you know? I'm going with another homer route. The Pittsburgh Steelers nailed round 3 as well. Really excited for Roman Wilson to step in as the wide receiver 2 for George Pickens. Not really the receiver that I wanted per se. You saw Jalen McMillan go after him, as well as Luke McCaffrey there at the end of the round. But I was happy regardless with whatever receiver they were going to draft. And of course, the Steelers, day 2 receivers, they get them going in Pittsburgh. So happy with that one. I think he's going to turn out pretty well. And then, of course, Peyton Wilson lasting all the way to 98. ACLs be damned. He only needs one. It's fine. Tackling machine at NC State. He was one of my favorite players at the position. And I actually had him. I had him as the linebacker off ball 1. I just liked how he played, can play in coverage as well. And going to slide in next to Patrick Queen. Maybe he'll have to rotate early on in the season, but I think eventually he'll take over that other inside linebacker spot next to Queen. So really enjoyed what the Steelers did. Also, like I said, I liked the Bucs going Jalen McMillan, but I also like John Seahawks. Christian Haynes was a great pick at 81. Guard, center, versatility, interior line. That's why we thought they might have gone Faltanu in the first round. They did not do that, but went with Byron Murphy instead. But I liked getting this one with their next pick at 81. And then Jermaine Burton to the Bengals. They needed a third wide receiver regardless of the T. Higgins situation. And I think Jermaine Burton's an excellent pick at 80. Kind of surprised you didn't talk about your guy Corley there at 65.
I felt like it was going to be a cheap one to say my favorite is the first pick of the third round. But yeah, I mean, everyone thought the Jets were going to trade up to get a wide receiver in the first, and everyone thought once the top 3 wide receivers are gone, they would go crazy and take Bowers. But they made the right move, got an offensive tackle in the first round, and then got their wide receiver in the third round. I think they really managed that well, and getting Corley in the third round was a big reward for not, jumping the gun on, the sexy, receiver pick or tight end pick in the first round and drafting for need.
Kieran Amagaji to the Bears is also pretty solid.
Oh yeah, I love that one too.
Picks didn't like. There's a lot actually. I did not like a lot of these third rounders in terms of team fit. My Panthers, this is the first negative on my teams. Trevin Wallace taken way too early. Peyton Wilson was on the board. You had other linebackers, Tyron Hopper there as well. I thought there were better linebackers, especially while Peyton was on the board. Wallace, so very high for me. I thought he was maybe a 4th or 5th rounder. The other one there were 2 other was one that I didn't really understand. Tip Ryman to the Cardinals at 82. Bro, why are you drafting a tight end? You have Trey McBride, your starter, and not even that you're drafting a tight end, but you had JT Sanders available. You had Theo Johnson, Cade Stover. Those were my next 3 tight ends. People I know were like falling in love with the athleticism of Tip Ryman in the pre-draft, but dude, 82 is way too high for Tip Ryman. And I just really don't see how he's going to be utilized in Arizona with Trey McBride as the starter.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final one, Maurice Liufau to the Cowboys. Hated that one again, just like the Panthers. This was way too early for this guy. Other linebackers available, kind of the same story as Carolina taking Trevin Wallace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one I didn't like. I only have one really. I did not love Blake Corum to the Rams. Kind of similar situation with other guys being on the board. I thought Marshawn Lloyd made more sense than Blake Corum. I think, they like a lot of people point out the Rams already have a small compact running back in Kyron Williams. So kind of doing two similar running backs at the same spot doesn't make a ton of sense. I thought Marshawn Lloyd would have been fine. That's the only one I really have a ton of questions with. Probably the only one where I was like, kind of like shrugging my shoulders and kind of like iffy on. I would say probably. I don't want to rag on the Cardinals too much. I didn't love Isaiah Adams. I feel like their third round wasn't great.
I didn't like a lot of their draft.
I think the Rams, other than Marvin Harrison Jr., a lot of question marks. Especially, I don't know. I didn't love Isaiah Adams. That's all I have to say. I think Cooper Beebe made more sense.
All right, fourth round here. And the start of the draft, the start of the fourth, I thought was awesome. The Panthers getting Jatavian Sanders, absolutely love it. Tight end was my number one need for Carolina. Waited till the fourth round to do it. Had probably my second tight end on the board. He ended up being the third tight end off the board. But really going to enjoy. I think Bryce Young's really going to like Sanders there in Carolina. And then Troy Franklin, that was awesome to see the Broncos do this, reuniting Bo Nix with his speedster and Troy Franklin to go along with Cortland Sutton there in Denver. I think those first two picks were really, really good.
Yeah, I thought the fourth round started with a bang. There was a ton of guys who I was like, ooh, Vikings are picking, eighth here. I hope we get hit. Oh, never mind. He's gone. Oh, I hope we get, he's gone. But, I mean, I like Kyrie Jackson. I'm not going to spend too much time on him, but I like his size. He's good in the zone defense, and that's what Brian Flores does. I mean, a guy who looks like a physical specimen of how just lengthy he is. He is a little slow, so I have a little bit of worry there. But if he get into position correctly as a defensive player, you can make up with that. You can make up that speed with smarts, and hopefully he can fit in. Another third round pick I like. Fourth round pick. Sorry, fourth round pick I liked. Gosh, would it be crazy if I said I kind of liked the Tory Taylor pick because it was so off the wall, insane?
You're on the opposite spectrum of me on that one, but
I mean, again, I'm not a huge fan of like special teamers getting drafted, but I feel like Tory Taylor is such a special college, prospect that maybe the Bears were like, well, we have a ton of other needs, kind of addressed already in this draft. Maybe we could address other needs later and take a gamble on the top punting prospect. So I thought that was super interesting. But yeah, other than that, another one I really like, Bucky Irving to the Buccaneers. Bucky to the Bucks. I just like saying that. I thought Bucky was one of the highly touted running back prospects. I thought he was going to go earlier. Like I had him over a couple other running backs I was taking in the third. I think getting him here in the fourth with the Buccaneers was a great value. And finally, I mean, TJ Tampa all the way down to 130. This is a guy we had mocked in the late first at times. Getting him in the fourth is insane.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything on what his issues were. But the Ravens overall in the fourth round were really good. Getting him plus Devontae Walker, I thought was an excellent round for Baltimore. Receiver was one of the 5 needs I had for them. Couple other ones though that I really liked. Will Shipley, the Eagles getting a upgrade at the backup running back spot. I really love Will Shipley. He's going to add a great passing element and a third down option for Philly whenever Saquon gets tired. I think that's going to be a great 1-2 punch in Philly because I was not really big believer in Kenny Gainwell. And then the only other one, I already said about the Ravens, but of course Steelers again. Mason McCormick's a mauler. Love my South Dakota State Jackrabbits as well, so liked that one. Who were guys you didn't like, Jimmy, in fourth?
I didn't like Sione Vaki to the Lions. That pick kind of scratched my head a lot. It felt like he practiced with the safeties. Well, I mean, scouted with the safeties. So his whole position thing is very confusing. But like, if he's listed at a running back, you didn't need a running back. If he's listed at a safety, you didn't need a safety. So I don't know what this pick was, trying to address. Especially if it's a DB fit. You already went Tyron Arnold and Rakestraw 1 and 2. You're gonna triple down on defensive backs. I thought it was odd.
I understood that if he would have been drafted as a safety. Safety was one of my needs for Detroit, but they drafted him as a running back.
That was the part that confuses me because it's like, okay, I don't even know what this guy's gonna do for you.
Yeah. Another one that I was not a fan of the Tory Taylor pick by Chicago. They drafted Trenton Gill last year in the 7th round. They signed Corliss Waitman in the offseason as well. So I thought those two were going to be the two they went into camp with as a punting battle. I understand. Tory Taylor, much better than both of those two players. But at this point, they still hadn't got an edge rusher. And this was, at this point, their last pick of the draft. So I didn't understand it. Obviously, we'll talk about what they did. They traded back in the 5th round to get a guy, but didn't really like it at the time because of the edge position was such a big need that they hadn't addressed yet. Mm-hmm. The other one I really didn't like, Jalen Wright to the Dolphins, makes no sense. You just drafted Devon Achane last year. You have Jeff Wilson. You have Salvin Ahmed and a million other running backs in Miami. So I didn't understand that, man. And they traded up to get him as well. They traded I think, was that the one they traded a 3rd rounder to the Eagles on?
I can't remember.
I think so. I think that was the one they traded a 3rd rounder to Philly next year. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it made absolutely no sense to get another running back.
Yeah.
All right. Headed on to round 5.
All right. Trying to read through all of these just to remember.
Yeah, I'll go first on round 5. The Bears, this time I do like their pick. I said I was very confused why they didn't draft the edge rusher. Luckily, they traded back into 144, traded a 4th round pick in 2025 to come up to this one and get Austin Booker, who a lot of people liked possibly even on day 3 or in round 3. But I really liked this pick, getting a developmental edge rusher to go along with Montez Sweat there. The next pick as well, Chris Abrams-Drain to the Broncos. A corner was one of their biggest needs, getting someone opposite Pat Surtain. Really didn't understand the drop of these two Missouri corners. And Abrams-Drain, I thought, was a pretty good steal for Denver in round 5.
I got a couple likes. One of them, your boys.
And the Eagles, awesome round 5.
Yeah, I love getting Trotter Jr. I thought when I saw that name go up, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me again.
Traded up to get him.
Again, they're gonna get great value for a guy that probably could have went as early as round 3, getting him all the way back here in round 5. I love seeing good value picks. I love teams just seeing the value and taking it. I think another pick I like, the very next pick, I like the Browns getting Thrash. I've been pretty high on Thrash. I thought he would fit in really well with the Browns with Amari Cooper there. I thought when I saw his name, I'm like, ooh, this could really work out for the Browns if they do this smartly. So I like those two back to back. I like those pick. picks. Trying to think of other picks here that I like. I don't want to say I like or dislike it. I would say this pick I thought was super interesting. Jets getting Jordan Travis at 171. You
I
know,
love it.
I think I'm bordering on loving it because Jordan Travis before that gruesome leg injury was, up there with a lot of other QB prospects going into this draft. And the nice thing about if you're the Jets is, well, you know who's starting. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers. So you can be in charge of this kid's rehab process, getting him back into football shape. He probably already is mostly in football shape, but you're taking a very good college QB and sitting him behind Aaron Rodgers, who could teach him all about THC and all the other good things about being an NFL QB. And I thought that was a super interesting pick. I really like it. I think that's good value. I think the Jets know they can get a guy that's coming off a serious injury because you're not going to throw him in the trenches right away. He's going to be playing a lot in practice and preseason, but nothing more than that for a year or two. And who knows if this kid can develop into what he was pre-injury. I mean, this is huge value.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved Jordan Travis. I wanted the Steelers to draft him to get a development, a possible guy for the future, since both quarterbacks are only signed for this year. He was, I don't want to say he was my top quarterback available after round one, but I did like him a lot more than Spencer Rattler, even though Rattler had a lot of good pre-draft stuff. But yeah, the Eagles, last plus pick here, I'll say Anais Smith. The Eagles had a need at wide receiver 3, and Anais is a guy super explosive, can help out in the return game as well, which we saw a lot of this happening on day 3, especially 5th round on. The new kickoff rules coming into play were making for some intriguing selections.
Yeah, you could definitely see later rounds that more just pure speed guys that were wide receivers are getting taken just because teams are like, all right, we're going to have a kickoff returner again.
Yeah, ones that I did not like, absolutely hated the Isaiah Davis pick to the Jets. Love Isaiah Davis. I was intrigued. I wanted the Panthers were one of the teams I liked for him. It just made no sense. You have Breece Hall, all right? You just drafted Braylon Allen. So I understand drafting one running back, upgrading the backup position in New York. But to draft a second one 2 rounds later made absolute, or 1 round later, or no, 2. No, it was 1. 1 round later, 2 picks later. Made absolutely no sense to me. I have no clue what the Jets are doing. I understand, great to have skill position players, but that one made no sense. And another one that didn't make sense to me was the Spencer Rattler pick, actually.
Yeah.
To New Orleans. They just drafted Jake Haener in the 4th round last year. So you're pretty much throwing away draft picks. I understand Rattler's probably better than Haener is, and those two are going to be competing for the QB2 spot. And I understand Haener wasn't, a premium selection, rounds 1 through 3, but it's still not a great look to throw away a 4th round pick after just 1 year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that does make a ton of sense. I know they probably don't see Carr as a long-term guy, but neither is Spencer. Let's be real here. Even if he does learn, behind Derek Carr, his ceiling's not great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another one was another running back, Rasheen Ali to the Ravens. I didn't understand. They're another team that has just a boatload of running backs. I doubt Ali will even sniff the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Monk, the Packers trading up for Jacob Monk also didn't make sense. I understand they had a need at center, but to trade up for a guy that I didn't really know too much about anyways. Um, maybe that's on me for not knowing too much about him, but I did not like the pick.
Moving on to the 6th.
Yes, sir.
All right. I'll go first. I think two picks I liked, and they're back to back, and it's still showing love to your team, and I hate doing it. But like Malik Washington and Johnny Wilson back to back in the 6th, awesome. I like both of these guys. I thought these guys are going as high as late 3rd. And again, I'm a sucker for good value. I'm a sucker for getting guys in the 6th, 7th round that should have went 3rd, 4th round. And both the Dolphins and your Eagles did the exact same thing, getting a guy that everyone went, hey, here's a late 3rd round talent, and saying, we'll wait and get him in the 6th for great value, especially the Johnny Wilson pick. Like, I mean, my God, 6'7". Give me a break. He's going to absolutely moss some people with that height. But yeah, I like that. Another pick I like DJ James to the Seahawks. I've been pretty high on DJ James. I've been a fan of his. And then where was he? I just saw him earlier. Oh yeah, Christian Boyd, defensive tackle to the Saints. That's a guy I was hoping would somehow make it to the Vikings at 203. He didn't make it there because I've liked Christian Boyd. I was hoping we'd get defensive tackle here, but we didn't, and we went kicker, which was interesting. I like Will though. I like Will Reichard, and it started the string of kickers getting drafted, which tells me that a lot of people are high on Will as well.
Yeah, they had another win, another round win for the Eagles. Johnny Wilson, excellent 6'6" frame. Gonna have to learn the route tree a little bit more to be more effective, but yeah, red zone threat for sure. And yeah, Dylan McMahon as well for the Eagles. Jason Kelsey retires. They needed some interior depth after drafting Trevor Keegan earlier, moving Cam Jurgens to center. But yeah, your Vikings, man. Yeah, I love the Will Reichard pick. Kicker was one of the needs. I had kicker and punter as needs for Minnesota. They didn't end up drafting a punter because really, Torrey Taylor was really the only draftable punter. You could have made a case for Ryan Reckow from BYU as well, who has gotten signed in free agency. But yeah, Will Reichard was my number one kicker. I didn't really believe the hype in Joshua Carty. The only issue with Reichard, struggles from long range, but I think it. Take your pick. I'd rather take the accuracy. The kids hit from 95% under 50 yards.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about that draft day. It's like I would rather teach leg strength than kicking accuracy.
Yeah, and that was the thing with Carty. He had the big leg. So did Cam Little, but yeah, I like Will Reichard. Plus, he's super experienced in big games, playing at Alabama for 4 years. So, yeah,
he went right that one time against Tennessee, and that scares me. Yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping he breaks the Viking kicker curse that we've been just so blessed with in the past 30 years.
Another one that I liked a little bit less, but I liked it though. Ryan Flournoy to the Cowboys. Needed to get a wide receiver to help that depth out from SEMO, so I like that one. There were a lot of picks I didn't like though in the 6th tier.
Go for it. Again, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know many of these names. I'm not as in depth with you. I would say by the time we started talking, like I even texted you during the 7th round. I was like, I literally don't know who the Vikings just
drafted. So Jamal Hill, linebacker from Oregon to the Texans. I had nothing on this guy. I didn't even know the name when it came up. So that's the only reason I really didn't like that pick. There were some other linebackers, like the guy I did like, Nathaniel Watson to the Browns, sideline to sideline guy from Mississippi State. Absolutely loved that pick for Cleveland. Linebacker was a need. He went well after Jamal Hill did, so I really didn't like that one for Houston, even though I did have linebacker as a need. Um, another one was the Tajon Palmer to Arizona. I understood doubling or even tripling up on wide receiver because the need was so bad for Arizona, and they had a boatload of picks. But there's another guy. I had no clue who this guy was. Had nothing on him. So again, there were other guys that went, and you look at Jordan Whittington to the Rams. Loved him at Texas. Ryan Flournoy to the Cowboys. Those were two guys I definitely would have taken above him. And then the Falcons drafting a third defensive tackle made absolutely no sense. Love my guy Zion Logue from Georgia, but to draft 3 defensive tackles when they had an edge need, it didn't make sense to me at all. And then the only other one I'll say that I really didn't like was the Devin Leary to Baltimore thing. He doesn't fit the type of quarterback that the Ravens have had, which is dual threats, because they've had Lamar, they had Tyler Huntley before he signed elsewhere. Even guys that they've had like Josh Johnson has been able to be mobile. Devin Leary can run, but he's not. I would definitely not classify him as dual threat. Not like those other guys that I just listed. So I think if you were going to go quarterback, I think there were better options for Baltimore than Devin Leary. So I think he's an easy cut when it comes down to it in training camp. Round 7 here, dude. The Raiders got one of the best value picks in the draft. Trey Taylor, I was shocked he lasted till 223. I liked him possibly in the 4th round, but even in the 3rd round potentially. He's awesome at safety. Has some ball skills as well. I don't know if it was just the service academy thing, but the thing is, he can play right away. He got that. He was one of the couple guys that were grandfathered in. So I didn't really understand why he fell this far. Brendan Rice to the Chargers. Really liked that one for Coach Harbaugh, getting Jerry's son, and they needed wide receivers, and they got 2 in the 7th round. So I really enjoyed that pick. Pretty solid year last season at USC. Other than that,
I kind of like Miles Harden. I thought it was a pretty solid pick in the 7th by the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, guy from South Dakota. Mm-hmm. Little shorter, I believe. I don't remember the measurables there, but yeah, he's pretty tough corner.
Yeah.
The Packers getting Kalen King at 255 was crazy. I was surprised that the Penn State corners lasted this long. Kalen King, Johnny Dixon went undrafted. But yeah, all of the Penn State corners I thought were going to get drafted, and they didn't. Kalen King was really the only one. In terms of hate picks here in the last round, I am going to go with the Dolphins. The Dolphins drafting a 2nd wide receiver, and you're going to hear a lot of Dolphins hate today because, especially when we get to our team drafts, how we thought about best worst team drafts. I love Thomas Washington. I like the player, but you already drafted a wide receiver. You have Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. I didn't see the need. I had a need at wide receiver for Miami because they needed depth, but I thought it was only going to be 1, not 2. So didn't really see the fit there. Michael Pratt to the Packers didn't make sense to me either. They're literally going back to their roots as Packers in the Ron Wolf days where you draft a quarterback every year. because just like the Saints, Packers just drafted Sean Clifford in the 5th round last year. So to draft another guy that, again, might be better. But to draft another one this year, I don't know. And Michael Pratt is great value, though. A lot of people had him in the 3rd round, right? Above Spencer Rattler, even. Some people had him. Yeah. And then I think the only other one, or no, that's probably it for round 7 there. Yeah. All right. Let's go to teams. Which teams? Because mine are all my own teams.
I'll try to be unbiased.
Yeah,
I'm going to stay outside of my own rooting division because I'm not going to act like I can be completely unbiased. I loved all of them to an extent. I thought Lions, even though I think they overdrafted and at corner, I still think they got pretty good value. Even though a lot of Packer fans are not super excited for the Morgan pick, I think they still had a pretty solid remainder of the draft. I like what the Vikings did early in the draft. I mean, the Bears got amazing value at every pick, other than Torrey Taylor. If it's not great to take Hunter, but I think they made up for it by trading back in and getting Booker, kind of getting that edge rusher, so they solidified their needs. So that'll be it. I think a draft I really liked, and every time I look at their draft, I just think value, value, value. I thought the Ravens were awesome. I really like the Ravens. I mean, you went Nate Wiggins, Roger Rosengarten, Adisa Isaac, Tez Walker, and TJ Tampa for your first 5. I thought that was amazing. Like I've seen all these guys, really clamored over and getting. Especially, I still love getting TJ Tampa as late as they did. I mean, again, this is a guy you and I have had late first, early second in multiple mock drafts. Getting him at 130, insane. I love that. To kind of go off a team I like to a team I don't. This one's super obvious. It is the Falcons. I think they're easy to pick on. I think Penix didn't make sense. I didn't love a ton. I'll give them credit. I do like their next 2 picks. I like Trice. I like Doris. I thought those were pretty decent picks. But other than that, just kind of So that was a draft I liked. Draft I didn't. I'm trying to think of other drafts I really didn't like.
Yeah. I mean, I can go while you're.
You go for it. I'll keep looking up a little bit, trying to refresh my mind.
Yeah, obviously, like I said, my top 2 teams, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers, were awesome. Howie Roseman, I'll say it again because I say it every show, deserves to win Executive of the Year before the season even plays out. I don't care. This man has done awesome in free agency and now in the draft, hitting. And the thing that people don't talk about enough, the man traded back. The Eagles traded 9 times in this draft, the most since 1990. And the man traded back 3 times in the span of 40 minutes on day 3 and picked up 3 2025 picks, 3rd, 4th, and a 5th next year. So they are prepped for whatever draft pick compensation the league takes away for the Saquon Barkley tampering thing. But regardless, the Eagles are loaded. They now have 9 picks already next year. And that's before we get the compensatory pick formula, which I don't see them getting any high picks this year or next year because of what they did in free agency. And they didn't really have a lot of high-priced free agents leave. So I think they're probably looking at a day 3 pick, maybe 2. But, yeah, absolutely loved everything they did. The top was awesome. Mitchell, DeJean, and Hunt. Loved Shipley, Smith, Trotter Jr., and then even I didn't really have much thought about the linemen until I really kind of sat back and looked at it. But Trevor Keegan and Dylan McMahon, both excellent selections there. Of course, Johnny Wilson. But, yeah, the Steelers as well. The Steelers is all about toughness. You look at the line, that was 3 of their first 5 picks was offensive lineman Faltanu, Frazier. Love those two. That's your left tackle and your center to start. You got a wide receiver too, Rowan Wilson. Potential starting inside linebacker and Peyton Wilson. You got guard depth with McCormick. The defensive guys, Logan Lee and Ryan Watts at the end, were okay. I kind of liked Lee. I thought they probably were going to go interior D line because of how old Cam Hayward is. And then the only thing I didn't like the Steelers was that they waited till their last pick to get a corner. Thought they needed to upgrade that much earlier opposite of Joey Porter. But all in all, I think it was really good for Pittsburgh.
Well, I'll go back on. I think a draft I liked, and I feel like not a lot of people are talking about how much they like this. I really like Tampa's. I really like Tampa. I like Graham Barton at 26. I remember I was talking to Caroline. She's like, "Who do you think the Browns should take in the second?" I said, "I really like Chris Braswell. I think pairing him with Miles be interesting." But they didn't. They went Michael Hall, and because of that, Buccaneers got Braswell, and I love that pick. I like Taggy Smith at 89, Jalen McMillan 92, Bucky Irving 125. I thought those were great picks. I feel like they were very under the radar for a lot of people, but I think they filled a lot of needs. And for a team that, you know, didn't have amazing draft capital, it wasn't bad draft capital, but it wasn't amazing. I think they did very well filling needs, getting valuable players. I thought it was very, very solid. And a team I didn't like, man. After the first round, I wasn't a huge fan of Tennessee's draft. I guess they don't really worry about Tavondre Smith. I like Tavondre, so maybe they're just getting value and they're not overly worried about the DY thing. And if it turns out, he's not going to be a long-term problem, then it's still a good pick. But I'm not a huge fan of their other selections. I thought they could have done better than, guys like Jarvis Brownlee or Jaquan Jackson. I wasn't a super fan of the Tennessee's draft. I like Latham. I do like Sweat. Other than that, I'm not moved, I think is the best word for what I'm looking for. I'm not really moved by what they did.
Yeah, and in terms of ones another one I did like was the Bears. I already kind of said that
they're the definition of making more with less. They didn't come into the draft with a ton of picks, but they really did a good job of using every pick to its maximum value.
Yeah, and you already kind of touched on the Falcons. It made no sense drafting 3 defensive tackles. The Penix situation in the first round also was not great. They didn't get an edge rusher, Braylon Trice is pretty solid, but they instead of drafting 3 defense tackles, they should have drafted 2 edge instead of 1. I didn't understand the Jace McClellan drafting either. They're pretty set at running back. Another one I was happy to hate is the Dallas Cowboys. To not draft the running back is beyond me. We'll talk about the Zeke signing, but it made absolutely no sense to not draft one, especially when you go with a guy like Maurice Liufau in the 3rd round when there were backs available that you could have taken there that would have been justifiable at that point. The Lions were another one I didn't like. They were the only team that didn't fill any of my needs that I had for them. I had edge, wide receiver, interior O-line, safety, and linebacker. And when you look at it, I guess they did go interior O-line. My bad.
They did get Wingo.
But interior O-line.
Oh. Chris Mahogany.
Yeah, but they didn't draft an edge rusher at all, which I thought was their biggest need. They still haven't got anyone to really pair with Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. We talked about the Vaki thing. Didn't make sense. And then, they didn't get a wide receiver either. which I thought they needed. They needed someone to replace Josh Reynolds as well. So I wasn't a fan of that. Another one was the Raiders. The Raiders was just all over the place. They did get some needs with Delmar Glaze at tackle, and I liked the Trey Taylor selection. Love Tommy Eichenberg as a player as well, but I still had edge and wide receiver as needs left for them. And then I think probably the only other one I hated was the Dolphins. The Dolphins made no sense to me. I understand Phillips and Chubb are coming off major injuries, but to get 2 edge rushers, Chop Robinson, cool, probably a value pick at 21 in the first round. A lot of people had that too early for him, but and then Patrick Paul was solid. They needed some O-line, especially with Teron Armstead being as old as he is. But then after that, dude, it went off the rails with the Jalen Wright trade up, giving a 3rd rounder next year to go get a running back. Didn't get it. The second edge rusher, love Mo Kamara, but not to the Dolphins. And then 2 wide receivers in the 6th and 7th round. I just one okay, but they had other stuff that I needed. Interior D line, where was that at the entire draft? There's a Christian Wilkins size hole in this D line.
Another one, interior O line. I mean,
right.
Are you going to convert Patrick Paul to interior O line? I feel like
they could,
but I don't know. I feel like you could have gotten other guys.
Yeah, and then I also thought the Dolphins should have drafted a quarterback. I had QB2 as one of their other needs. I did not like the backups in Miami. So, yeah, and the drafting a safety, like, bro, you have safeties. You have Javon Holland. You have other guys. So yeah, that was another one I was not a fan of. But
I heard someone comment that this was the kind of draft someone with a fantasy league would draft. it's like they value fantasy points over team building. It's just the sexy picks, it felt like.
Yeah, like, right. But then it's like, okay, well, like, how you can't put all these guys on the field.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't put 6, 7 wide receivers on the field. Where is Taj and Malik Washington going to play? Are they going to play at the same time, or is one of them a kick returner? I don't know.
I don't even know if Taj Washington is going to make the roster.
Yeah,
Malik should. A lot of people liked Malik Washington. He should have been drafted way earlier, probably in the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah, that was a pick I did like. I think it's just doubling up on a position not of substantial need, was just weird.
Yeah. So I forgot to update my needs list. So I don't know if you had any remaining questions on some of the teams.
Are we going to cover UDFAs?
Yeah, we'll get to that. All
right, cool. Because I do like what my boys did. I'd love to flex about them.
Yeah. We'll get to that. We'll get to that during NFL news.
Good.
We're just talking about the draft right now. So I don't know if you had any big question marks remaining for some of these teams left.
No, not really. It's just, and the thing is too, looking at this draft, there is a decent amount of free agents still available, especially in the defensive backfield position. So maybe teams that had that need felt like they could fill it in late stage free agency, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I already kind of said it, but the Cowboys, dude, the Cowboys at running back, it makes no sense. They don't have a starting running back. So that was probably the funniest thing as an Eagles fan. That was very funny to watch them not draft the running back. I also thought center. They didn't draft a center either. So that was weird. They drafted 2 tackles and they drafted a guard. Now, maybe they're going to try to put Cooper Beebe at guard. I don't think he's ever played center, but I don't think he's ever played center. So that's a big question mark for me. That was the 2 biggest needs I had for Dallas, and they didn't address either. So I was very happy to see that happen. And like I said, I thought the Lions hadn't filled any of my needs, but it turns out they did. They did get a guard, so interior O line is off the board for me. But other than that, they were the team that ended up with the most needs left on on my board. I think another big question mark for me, like I said, the Lions with the edge. The Falcons with the edge as well. I didn't understand who they're gonna put there. They have some young guys, but other than that, didn't really get it. So I think that was really the only major questions I had left, because I think the the Chargers were the only other one, really, I think, but they did a good job on day 3 of filling the wide receiver position with a couple more guys or getting Ladd earlier, and then a couple of the other guys that they drafted later. I forgot to mention that the Chiefs had a pretty good draft as well. I liked Jared Wiley as the successor to Travis Kelce. I'll talk about him in a minute, but oh yeah, then the Dolphins as well. The Dolphins, friggin' the interior D line. I have no clue what they're doing. So that one I didn't get that one either. All right, let's move on to Danny says Packers got the better Cooper. Cool. All right.
Who?
So let's go to the UFL here, week 5. It was a weekend of blowouts. The Brahmas beating the Renegades 25-15. Alex Renegade's pick did not hit once again. So we can thank him for that, giving us a win. But yeah, I mean, it's not great for Coach Stoops right now in Arlington. They just, Dormity's throwing for these yards, but the defense is horrendous. And let me see. Yeah, they continued. Or no, I didn't. Forgot to filter this here. But they aren't the worst team in terms of points allowed per game anymore. They are the second worst team in yards, 320.6 per game allowed. 25 points per game allowed. They're tied for last in sacks with 9, and they are third the last in turnovers with 6. But yeah, Luis Perez, 26 of 36, 72.2%, 270, a touchdown. Quentin Dormady has been fantastic his first 2 games. Now I know he didn't throw for a lot of yards, threw 3 interceptions, and yet the damn team still won. 19 of 30, 63.3%, 164, 1 touchdown, 3 picks, 1-point conversion. I think Wade Phillips saw the 3rd interception. He's like, son, we're running the ball. Because that's what they did. John Lovett was an awesome play in this one. 13 carries, 95 yards. That's 7.3 yards per carry. Had 2 touchdowns, also caught 3 for 13. The Renegades couldn't run the ball. Day Hunter was their leading rusher with 33 yards on 9 carries, under 4 yards per carry, also fumbled the ball. 100-yard day, though, a bright spot was Javonte Payton, 7 catches, 119 yards, touchdown on 9 targets. You had Alize Mack catching a touchdown on a long play, his biggest day of the season so far. And then defensively, I think I'm going to go with Stephen Jones Jr. on the losing side there. 4 tackles, 3 solos, a pick, and 2 pass deflections for the Arlington corner. The Brahmas -1.5. They covered under 42.5. I knew I should have taken San Antonio spread, man. I was not sure Dormady was going to do it twice in a row. And then once Arlington got tied, this game was tied at 15 in the third quarter. Arlington came all the way back. And then San Antonio got the last 10 and took it away. Dude, talk about the flip side of 0-5. 5-0 for the Birmingham Stallions, 32-9, crushing the Roughnecks. Dude, this was, I mean, I don't think anyone's stopping them, bro. I don't. I mean, this team looks absolutely just legendary. Trying to win their third championship in 3 years, 2 USFL back-to-back, and then the UFL now. I mean, it's not even just like the offense is scoring in bunches, but then the defense is lights out. They tied the UFL record this season with the least amount of points against, which is 9. And this defense through 5 games hasn't given up more than 18 points. 13.2 points per game they're giving up. 200. They're under 250 yards a game as well. 240.2. That's just under 30 yards better than the next team. Or never mind. No, I misspoke. St. Louis actually has the best yards allowed at 223.4. So they are second in one category, but 18 sacks through 5 games. That's one above San Antonio as the best. They also are second in the league in turnovers with 8, and they also have a safety. So, yeah, it's the defense is ridiculous, and I think at this point Skip Holtz has to make a decision. I think it's got to be Adrian Martinez the rest of the way. They only threw for 155 yards in this one, just 55%, not great. But he ran for 138. He's faster than Matt Corral, even though both can run. He's a lot faster than Corral is, and I think he's improved the passing. And I just think going the second half of the season now, I think it's got to be Adrian Martinez the rest of the way. I think you make a decision. I don't think the 2 QB system can last. And, I think it should be Martinez. In terms of Houston, Reed Sinnott played pretty well. 27 of 38, 71.1%, 203, touchdown, a pick. Nolan Henderson then came in at the end, 3 of 4, 75%, 35 yards and a pick. Like I said, Martinez, 11 of 20, 55%, 155, a touchdown, 9 carries, 138 yards, though. The ground game was really solid. Larry Roundtree, the third, former Chargers running back there, 9 carries, 50 yards, a touchdown, leading non-quarterback rusher. 2 touchdown day for Ricky Person. Ricky Person, he's been a beast this year as well. He leads the league in rushing touchdowns with 5. So he's averaging a touchdown per game, which is always pretty solid, I would say. Houston couldn't run the ball at all. Pledger, their leading rusher, 15 yards on 6 carries. Not great. Justin Hall, though, bright spot again for the losing squad. 11 receptions for 93 yards on 14 targets. Crazy numbers there. 1-yard touchdown catch for Braden Bowman on the Roughnecks side. Touchdown for Jay Sternberger on the Stallion side. And then defensively, I am going to go with Stallion safety Kenny Robinson Jr. 6 tackles, 3 solos, 1 tackle for loss, 2 pass deflections. Stallions covered easily, minus 9.5, under 41.5. That was one of the craziest things in this game, that the under hit. So it was 41 with 8 minutes to go in this game. So you're like, bro, if you got the over, you're feeling good. You're like, dude, someone's got to score, right? They're bound to score with 8 minutes left in the game. Houston gets all the way down inside the 10-yard line. Reed Sinnott, or I think Nolan Henderson it was, throws a pick. in the end zone. I was like, no, the over betters are hitting punching air right now. So yeah, and then it ended up the hook short on the total. The next game here on yesterday, the Battlehawks. Dude, it was not a great Sunday for my two teams. The Defenders, the Showboats, they both got absolutely blasted. 45-12 for St. Louis over DC. First loss ever at Audi Field for the Defenders. So that was something. But yeah, it's setting up. I think it's destiny now. It's a St. Louis Birmingham final.
That's gonna be a fun one.
I think St. Louis has clearly separated itself in the XFL conference, and even though we do have them tied with San Antonio at 4-1 as well, St. Louis has a tiebreaker because they already beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just if St. Louis's defense plays like they did against DC throughout the rest of the season, I think they're the only team that can come close to Birmingham. And that would be the biggest question mark in that game. If that does happen, it would be the St. Louis defense, because we know what the Birmingham defense can do. We know what both offenses can do. But it's the St. Louis defense really hadn't come to play, and they weren't getting turnovers until this game. They got 4. So, yeah, it's crazy. And, it's tough. It's tough for the Defenders. I really liked the comparison I saw someone make to the New Jersey Generals. Second year in the USFL last year, they had been to the championship game the first year of the USFL in 2021 or 2022, but the second year wasn't great. I think they made it to the playoffs, but then they lost. They got upset by the Pittsburgh Maulers, or maybe they didn't make the playoffs. I can't remember, but it just wasn't the same the second year. And that's what you're seeing with DC here. The weapons are just not even close to what they had last year with Lucky Jackson and Chris Blair at wide receiver. Obviously, Abram Smith, really tough break, tearing ACL in preseason, and not having him the entire season. So it's not been great on the DC side. They're still in it. There's 5 weeks left. They're 2 games back of a playoff spot, but hopefully, I think Reggie Barlow is a really good coach. I think offensive coordinator Fred Keiss is a good coach. Love defensive coordinator Greg Williams. That defensive unit can only do so much when the offense is turning the ball over and giving St. Louis the ball at inside your own 30-yard line 4 possessions during the game. So it was a really tough day, but hopefully Coach Barlow can get it turned around and potentially, go on a run here and hope for the best. But AJ McCarron, 14-24, 58.3%, 213, 2 touchdowns, a fumble, a 1-point conversion, and a 2-point conversion. Jordan Ta'amu, like I said, it was rough. 12-23, 52.2%, 101, 1 touchdown, 3 picks, 4 carries for 26 yards and a fumble. Jacob Sailors continues to be a revelation for the Battlehawks running game. 12 carries, 52 yards, leading rusher in this one. Touchdown, 4 catches, 17 yards on 5 targets. DC, again, they regressed from the Birmingham game. They did not run the ball well. 15 carries for 33 yards for Zaquandre White. Also caught a 1-yard reception. Touchdowns from Wayne Gallman for St. Louis. DC, Cameron Harris. Quarterback Manny Wilkins also scored a rushing touchdown in his time late in the fourth quarter. Massive day for wide receiver Hakeem Butler on the Battlehawks side. 6 catches, 147 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 9 targets. Also caught a 1-point conversion. Touchdown from Calvin Harmon as well. And then defensively, I'm going the losing side, dude. Malik Fisher, the Defenders did not lose this game because of Malik Fisher, that's for sure. 3 tackles, all of them solos, 3 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. The man was everywhere. He's having an excellent season on this DC defense. And the Battlehawks cover easily -3.5, over 47, easily as well. This, though, was another game where you're like, all right, like the defenders got something coming. Like they got this thing. I think it was 17-12. They got it to. They had scored just before halftime, got a stop, and then the Battlehawks got the ball back, went down the field right after halftime, scored a touchdown, and that was about all that happened. All that had to happen. And then again, though, like DC was driving, and what happens? They turn the ball over. I mean, it was really tough. This game was literally the exact same thing that happened in DC. The Panthers 35-18 blowout over the Showboats. Troy Williams 19-37, 51.4%, 248, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, 2 carries, 24 yards, a fumble. Danny Etling was pretty good in his first start of the season, 14-21, 66.7%, 175 yards, 5 carries, 10 yards, and a touchdown. If I would have known Case Cookus wasn't playing in this game, I wouldn't have picked the Showboats probably. Even though Troy Williams had played very well last year with Pittsburgh Maulers, got them to the USFL championship game, he's just not Case Cookus. Like, Case Cookus is really the dude, and probably would have picked Michigan if I would have known Williams was going to be the starter instead of Cookus. Forgot to mention, though, in that DC game, I have no clue how DC didn't win that game. St. Louis was out of offensive. They were playing injured offensive linemen. Like, they ran out of offensive linemen. They had 3 injuries on the O-line. And, yeah, they were putting a guy out there that had an injured calf that they ruled out earlier in the game because they just needed a body. And it was just weird that the defender's defense just couldn't stop them for some reason. I don't know how they weren't able to. Mm-hmm. But this was similar to that game in the fact that the Showboats were there. Like they came back. It was 12-0 early. I think it was 15-0 or something like that for Michigan. The Showboats came back. It was like 15-12. I'm like, they're there at halftime. They were right there. And then it just fell off the rails in the second half, just shooting yourself in the foot all day with turnovers, drops. Dude, I'm going to tell you, Dawood Davis had a great stat line, 6 catches, 101 yards, touchdown, but he only caught 6 of his 16 targets. And a couple of them were drops. He also fumbled the ball. The fourth quarter was absolutely, horrendous for Dawood Davis. He had a couple drops, especially the last play that the Showboats had on offense. Troy Williams did an excellent job. Rolled out, couldn't find anything, rolled out left. Made probably one of the hardest throws you'll see. And it went right through the hands of Dawood Davis. Now, he was diving. He wasn't on his feet, but it hit him in the chest. Like, you got to catch the ball, man. He also dropped a long ball that was placed absolutely perfectly by Troy Williams. Troy Williams, despite 51.4%, had some really excellent throws in this game. I was super impressed by his ball placement. So that gives me something to look forward to for Memphis going forward, even though they're pretty much out of it. Now, just like the DC Defenders, they're 2 games back. They're in third place. I think they're in third place. I think they're above the Roughnecks by some tiebreaker. But they're 2 back of the Panthers. It's going to be an uphill battle with only 5 weeks to go, but it's if they got a chance at least, still. So we'll see. But yeah, West Hills was unstoppable in this game. 16 carries, 82 yards, 3 touchdowns. Matt Colburn scored as well. The rushing attack for Michigan was off the charts. Once again, Memphis can't run the ball worth crap. Darius Victor, 17 yards on 9 carries. Williams was their leading ball carrier with 24 yards. But, yeah, the ground game is not happening right now in Memphis. You had a touchdown by Jonathan Adams for Memphis as well. Sage Surratt scored a touchdown as well. Defensively, I'll go 2 guys on the Michigan side. Braylon Speaks, 4 tackles, all of them solos, 3 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, forced fumble. He was a monster all day. And dude, Kai Nakua, Puka's brother is balling, dude. 3 picks this season. He has 3 straight games with an interception, 3 tackles, 2 solos, a pick, and 2 pass deflections. He has 6 pass deflections on the year as well. He's just ridiculous. Like, just don't throw it deep to his half of the field because he'll take it. And before we get to the breaking news, I kind of already mentioned it, but in terms of we're at the midway point of the UFL now, so just looking ahead, like I said, I think right now it looks like it's Birmingham and it's St. Louis, and then I think the 2 teams that are right under them right now, I think those are probably going to be the 4 in the playoffs. San Antonio, I definitely think, has the best chance to unseat St. Louis, considering they're the same record at 4-1. I just don't really know about the offense is still a question mark for me in San Antonio with Dormady, but Michigan, they're also one that like the offense is questionable. We'll have to see how Denny Etling continues to play, but I think both of those defenses, I don't question those. But yeah, it seems like those are going to be the 4 in the playoffs, I think. And like I said, DC is really the only one that I could see, breaking in. I don't think Houston or Memphis are going to be able to unseat Michigan for that second spot. And obviously, Arlington has to run the table to even have a chance. And I don't think that's going to happen. So, all right, breaking news. We're going to talk. Let's talk about some contracts. Travis Kelce got paid.
Mm-hmm.
How about 2 years, $34.25 million, with $17 million fully guaranteed, highest paid tight end in the league. Keeps him there for the rest of his career.
Yeah. Not super surprising. I mean, he's probably the biggest offensive cog outside of Patrick Mahomes for this dynasty. You got to pay him. And I mean, for all the people that were concerned that the Vikings might have overpaid TJ Hawkinson when they made him the highest paid tight end, I mean, this guy just one-upped him, and he's about 10 years older. So now it's looking like a better deal.
Yeah, I mean, we knew this was going to get done.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of what price.
Mm-hmm.
And, Travis deserves. He might be the best tight end in NFL history, to be honest. When you look at, he broke Gonzalez's record of consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. He's getting up there on all the tight end records as well. So, I mean, why not?
You got to pay him.
He's 3-time Super Bowl champ. I mean, he's definitely a Hall of Famer. So,
yeah, definitely.
I guess also with breaking news, we'll talk about the other contract. The contract that had more money with it. We'll talk about that one as well. The Patriots getting a deal done. They signed defense tackle Christian Barmore, 4 years, $92 million max deal, $41.8 million guaranteed. Pretty solid deal. Was it Nicole Lynn? Is that her name? Jalen Hurts' agent and his agent as well, and she reps a bunch of other guys. But yeah, another excellent deal for her, and one that maybe some people didn't necessarily think or see coming. Barmore's not really a household name, I would say. Former second round pick though, and has played very well for New England. Doesn't really have the the sack numbers though.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he had a breakout year. He had 8.5 sacks this year, highest of his career.
I was gonna say, what's his career total?
Career total is only 12.5, but he's only been here 3 seasons.
That's the biggest issue.
So he's cashing out on the career year.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, I liked the pick when they drafted him at Alabama, and continues to develop in New England. So, and especially now, Gerard Mayo taking over. I think it's a good move for New England. And GM Elliott Wolf there. All right, college football transfer portal. Some names getting signed. Colorado running back Dylan Edwards. He's going to Manhattan, Kansas to play for Kansas State. Pretty solid there. Not utilized a ton last year in his true freshman year, but looking for more work at KSU. Oregon State running back Damian Martinez. Big get for Coach Cristobal there in Miami. The Hurricanes signing the Beavers running back there. I loved Damian Martinez. Him and Deshaun Fenwick, who went undrafted this weekend, both really good backs at Oregon State. And then Miami quarterback Ja'Cory Brown, he has found a home staying in state. He has went to UCF. And then Louisville running back Penny Boone, he visited UCF. So UCF could get a couple good prospects here. Penny Boone, awesome player from Toledo, transferred to Louisville in the fall. Didn't work out there. Now looking for a new home and possibly in Florida at UCF. UFL news, just one thing. The Roughnecks losing tight end Woody Brandom for the year. Broke his fibula on Saturday. So prayers up for Mr. Brandom there and healthy recovery. We had one player trade. It was kind of surreal that we only had one player trade after all the talk about the wide receivers, T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk. We only had one guy get traded during draft weekend. It was not either of those guys. John Franklin Myers, the Broncos and the Jets making a second deal in 2 weeks. The Broncos getting defensive end John Franklin Myers from the Jets for a 2026 sixth-round pick, also going to help out the Denver organization by restructuring his deal, lowering his salary cap number for this season. So, yeah, I like it. You and whoever else we had on here were talking about how much they need a pass rush, and they got some guys in the draft, and then they got Franklin Myers as well. So there you go. There's your pass rush help that I didn't think they needed.
It's never a bad thing to get pass rush help.
All right. I already talked about that. The Giants tight end Darren Waller. Apparently I didn't know he was considering retirement. I only learned about that after they drafted tight end Theo Johnson for Penn State. And then I saw someone tweet it. They're like, oh, yeah, with Waller contemplating retirement, the Giants getting their tight end of the future probably. So, yeah, I mean, they're pretty stacked at tight end. Waller, Johnson, and Bellinger there in New York. So, but, yeah, didn't know that. Did not know the Waller stuff. How about the Eagles? The Eagles throwing a dart here, inviting former Bengals and Giants wide receiver John Ross to their rookie minicamp for a tryout. Drafted 2 wide receivers, and see what the speedsters got left. He retired, but then he's hoping to come out of it and sign with Philly potentially. And we finally have closure on the Deshaun Watson trade. So this is how it went. The Texans, 2022 first round pick. That ended up being guard Kenyon Green. Pretty solid player. 22 fourth round pick. Ended up being running back Damian Pierce. Worked out his rookie year. Not great the sophomore season last year. We'll see what year 3 holds. Hopefully it's a lot better because I have him in Dynasty. 23 first round pick. That ended up being the pick that they traded to, that ended up being Will Anderson Jr. That was the pick that they traded to the Cardinals to go up to get Will Anderson. 2023 third round pick. That became Tank Dell. So it's working out pretty well so far for Houston.
Basically 4 for 4 if Pierce can recover.
2024 first round pick. That's the one they traded to the Vikings. And that became corner Kamari Lassiter. And the one that I didn't like, Jamal Hill, linebacker Jamal Hill, the 6th round pick they got from Minnesota. And then a 2024 fourth rounder that they used to trade up to get safety Kalen Bullock. So they made it out pretty well, did the Texans.
That's an entirely new team. I mean, if it's already a huge win for Houston, but if one of their 2024 picks turns out to be like Pro Bowl level player, then holy crap is what we're all going to be saying about this trade. Another Browns gonna Brown kind of trade.
And then the Browns, they got Deshaun Watson, who has played a total of 12 out of the 36 games that he's potentially been able to play. And then they got a 2024 6th rounder, which was used in the Jerry Jeudy trade. So that was one thing good that they got out of it.
Okay, so Deshaun Watson and Jerry Jeudy for all that. Thanks. I mean, if Jerry Jeudy and Deshaun Watson play a full season healthy and are competent, then at least the Browns could try to even out. But man, that's not good. That's really not good.
Yeah. The Browns are going to Brown, man.
Yes, they will. Every chance they get.
All right. I don't know exactly when the 5th-year option deadline is, but we're getting close to it. Guys are getting theirs picked up for the most part for the 2021 draft class going into year 4. So the guys that got them picked up within the last week, the Chargers left tackle were Sean Slater, Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence, Jaguars running back Travis Etienne Jr., Jets guard Elijah Vera Tucker, Bills edge rusher Greg Rousseau, Dolphins linebacker Jalen Phillips, Dolphins wide receiver Jalen Waddle, Vikings offensive tackle Christian Darrisaw, and the Falcons tight end Kyle Pitts. Not really any surprises. The one that I would say, though, Greg Rousseau in Buffalo, wasn't too sure, but he did have a really good season last year. Maybe the only other one that was somewhat questionable is Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I think with a new QB in tow, they'll probably expect him to take a bigger leap in production, and with a new coaching, coaching staff and different offensive philosophy, hopefully they'll actually get the top 10 pick expectations. Yeah. I don't mind it. I think it's probably smart with what they're looking for.
All right, now let's go to your favorite time of the show, the undrafted free agent signings here.
Yeah.
So I have them in alphabetical order by team name, but I do have the list up as well on my phone for some of the ones I don't have written down. So let's just start at the top. Bears, a couple guys here. Keith Randolph Jr. from Illinois.
I like
that. Interior D-line help. James Madison, defensive lineman, Jamari Chroma as well. I was a big proponent of Chroma. Both of the JMU guys, him and Jalen Green, I really liked. Chroma, though, he's also an interior guy, though. So Bears still haven't, other than Austin Booker, haven't really got the edge. The Bears also got Austin Reed, quarterback from Western Kentucky. Love Austin Reed. I thought he would have got drafted, but with the pushing down of the quarterbacks day 3, I didn't really understand it. But the Bills, Frank Gore Jr., Southern Miss running back. I like it.
I'm a fan.
He's gonna have a tough time making the team though, since they also drafted Ray Davis out of Kentucky. So they got him and James Cook and one other back that I can't remember. A couple other backs, but the Broncos. The Broncos. So they signed running back Blake Watson from Memphis.
That's a guy I really wanted on the Vikings.
Yeah, that's a good one. Once again, though, that was another team that drafted a running back, so he's going to have a tougher time making it. They drafted Audric Estime out of Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
And then one that I'm really excited about, it's going to be very difficult for him to make the team, but they also invited Colorado School of Mines quarterback John Matocha to their rookie mini camp. He is like the all-time leader in passing yards across all divisions or something like that. This kid's ridiculous. You can't find film on him, though.
He just exists.
So, yeah. He was one of the Stump the Trucks on NFL Network this weekend. They didn't have his film. So, and, yeah, he's tough to track as well because when we were scouting him for the National Scouting Combine, we also couldn't find he doesn't have any social media as far as I could find. And the only way he didn't respond, but the only way I found him was on LinkedIn. So yeah, he's a tough man to find. Does he actually exist though? That's the biggest question. Maybe I'll have to go to Denver to watch practice. How about the Bucks? The Bucks, they got Florida State's linebacker Kalen DeLoach. Love Kalen DeLoach. Excellent player last year at Florida State. They also got, I believe that's Illinois State quarterback Zach Anixtad.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy I really enjoyed, Toledo defensive tackle Judge Culpepper. Big guy inside. Could have a chance to make that team, I think. Chiefs, they got Charlotte edge rusher Ayabi Oki Anoma. So I kind of enjoyed him. I didn't know a lot about him. And they got 2 good running backs. Imani Bailey from TCU. Excellent Senior Bowl performance. He's going to be a third down receiving back type of guy. And Carson Steele from UCLA. I hate saying he's from UCLA. He's a Ball State Cardinal at heart, where he's played most of his college career. Didn't really get utilized enough at UCLA last year, but had excellent tape at Ball State. So we'll see. Maybe the Chiefs can hit on another guy at the running back position.
Yeah. You almost forgot to mention your boy from Penn State, Curtis Jacobs, coming up to Kansas City. I like Curtis Jacobs.
Well, I'm on the NFL site, and they don't have him listed. So
I'm on Pro Football Network.
Okay.
They got a more apprehensive list.
Yeah, probably. That's why you're here, Jimmy, just to add on.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm like the icing on the cake.
My Eagles, they got Maryland offensive tackle Gottlieb Eidze. He was one that I thought was going to be drafted potentially. It wasn't really a sure thing. I'm more excited for the other tackle that they got, though. Aneem Dankwa from Howard. Really excited for him. He was a late round guy, potential 7th rounder. So the Eagles just continue to bolster that O line there. Guy also defensive tackle Gabe Hall. It's a pretty stacked position in Philadelphia, but he's more of an undersized guy as far as I remember. Excellent production there at Baylor, but yeah, he's a guy I like there as well.
I like Gabe Hall too.
What?
I like Gabe Hall too, defensive tackle from Baylor.
Yeah. I just said about Gabe Hall.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I thought you were still on what was his name? Donqua.
Oh no. The Jags are the next team I have here. UTSA wide receiver Joshua Cephas. Receiver still the depth that was receiver still somewhat of a need in Jacksonville, even though they got Brian Thomas now in tow with Gabe Davis there and Christian Kirk. But Cephas had a pretty good career at UTSA. The Patriots got LSU center Charles Turner. That was an excellent signing, I thought. Guy I definitely thought was going to get drafted and did not. So he's going to help their interior line depth there. The Raiders, they did get a quarterback. South Alabama quarterback Carter Bradley.
Let's go.
Who had an absolutely horrendous Senior Bowl and was just a homer addition to the roster because they play the game in Mobile, and that's where South Alabama is, and was not great. So don't hold your hopes, Raiders fans. The Raiders also, they got a lot of work in on the drafted guys. At least NFL has a lot of guys for them. Tulu Griffin from Mississippi State, also a solid receiver prospect. Ramel Keaton, wide receiver from Tennessee, is a good one. Andrew Coker, the guard from TCU, not as good as Brandon Coleman, who for some reason they listed as a tackle during the draft. He's a guard, by the way. Coker, a guard as well. Love them getting Ron Stone Jr. from Washington State, the edge rusher, played opposite of Brennan Jackson, who the Rams drafted. Stone had pretty good production there as well. Maryland corner Jaquan Shepard, another guy that I think is going to play really solid for Vegas. The Saints, they got Arkansas edge rusher Trajan Jeffcoat, so they needed some work there on the D line in New Orleans. Also, tight end Dallin Holker, Colorado State for New Orleans. Tight end's a position that I think is underrated in New Orleans. You know, I hyped Jawan Johnson up last year, and he didn't do anything. But yeah, Holker's a guy definitely should have been drafted. A lot of people like Holker, and I think he might be able to find a home in New Orleans. Kyle Hergel, the other Boston College guard, played on the opposite side of Christian Mahogany there. And TCU safety Millard Bradford is another good one. And, of course, they got Vanderbilt punter Matthew Hayball. I believe he won the Ray Guy Award last year. I might be wrong, but I think so anyways. So pretty solid punter addition for the Saints. John Seahawks here. They got a couple quarterbacks. San Jose State quarterback Chevin Cordero, who I really love. I was very high on San Jose State this year just because of Chevin Cordero, and didn't work out too well. He's had some injury stuff throughout his career, so but I really enjoy him. And my guy, they invited Maryland quarterback Talia Tagovailoa to rookie minicamp as well. I think he's going to play very well. Hopefully he can make this 90-man roster, go into training camp with Seattle. If not, I think he's good enough. He is definitely good enough to make a roster somewhere else. I hope that Talia can be on a 53 this year somewhere.
If you haven't mentioned, I like Jack Westover, tight end out of Tennessee to Seattle. I really like that. I also really like D. Williams.
Washington.
Oh, Washington. I think I just read that. And then D. Williams, defensive back out of Tennessee. I like those two a ton. I think those are I think those are guys that honestly I kept seeing Jack Westover in like a lot of people's like, oh yeah, going 6th round. Oh yeah, easy 6th round, 7th at worst. So to get him as an UDFA, huge value. I like that a ton. Same with D Williams. I think D Williams has a ton of upside coming out of Tennessee, and I think Seattle can benefit from it.
Yeah, Seattle's probably got the number one undrafted free agent class for me. Mm-hmm. George Halani, running back out of Boise State, also very good. The biggest one I like, though, is the biggest man, Garrett Greenfield out of South Dakota State, the tackle. Oh, my goodness. That is excellent. He could probably fight, maybe, I don't know. He would have to fight George Fant for it, but the swing tackle position, I think, is a possibility for Greenfield there. Nelson Caesar, the D lineman out of Houston, has had good production there. And then Ro Torrance, the safety out of Arizona State as well. Pretty solid player from there. My Steelers, they got Georgia running back Dejon Edwards. Forgot to mention the Eagles got another Georgia player, of course. Kendall Milton they signed in undrafted free agency. But yeah, the Steelers getting Dejon Edwards, I like that. There's question marks at the RB3 position. John Rice Plumlee, I'm excited to see what he can do. He fits the mold of what they have now at quarterback. He's a dual threat option with a big arm as well. So I like that one. And then they didn't really solve a lot of their corner issues. The depth, anyways, only drafted one guy in Ryan Watts. But Beanie Bishop out of West Virginia, short trip up from Morgantown to Pittsburgh. I love it. He's a safety prospect more, but they list him as corner here. So really like that one. The Titans, Washington running back Dylan Johnson. That's one of my favorite fits. I understand they signed Tony Pollard, but I think Dylan Johnson's going to make the team, and he could have a big role, I think. I really enjoyed, ran for over 1,100 yards last year with the Huskies. And if he wouldn't have had that ankle injury in the national championship, I think he would have been a lot more prevalent in that game. They also got Tennessee running back Jabari Small. So he's more of a third down back, pass catcher. Mm-hmm. Your Vikings.
My guys.
Arkansas safety Dwight McGlothern.
Love it.
Pretty solid prospect there. They're also one of the teams that has a lot of players listed. South Carolina tight end Trey Knox. How you like that one?
Oh, I love it. I saw that come up. I was like, another South Carolina Gamecock tight end. We already have Nick Muse. Why not get another guy, Trey Knox? I love that pickup as well.
Mercer wide receiver Ty James is an excellent pickup for that receiver.
It's even better when you learn he committed to Baltimore and then changed his mind and came to Minnesota. So he wants to come to us. I love it.
Your guy, edge rush, UCLA edge rusher Gabriel Murphy.
He was one of the 4 names I mentioned when UDFA started. I sent you a text, and I'll read it out for everyone listening. I said, if Bo Braid, Leonard Taylor, and or Curtis Jacobs, and then a later text, and Murphy are available, I want the Vikings on them like Hawks. And hey, we got Murphy, and I'm super excited we got him.
Why didn't you sign his brother too, though? Why didn't you sign Grayson?
Didn't want to get greedy.
He signed with the Rams, I think.
Yeah.
Or someone. I really like the linebackers he got. Owen Porter from Marshall is an excellent outside linebacker.
I didn't know much about Porter, but I watched a couple of videos of him yesterday, and the first word out of my mouth for most of his reps were, holy shit, he can get off the line. He goes. He's like up before the lineman even has a chance. I mean, you look at all these guys, the first word most of the time is short arms, low arm, just underweight. But I mean, with Flores, he can make more of less. I mean, you saw what Flores did with Pace last year. This guy can make stuff out of these kind of, players in terms of just height, weight, and arm length. So I mean, I'm excited. I thought when I started looking at Porter's film, I was like, holy crap, I like this.
Yeah, Bo Richter out of Air Force as well. Yeah. Another one I like, has a good motor. He's not as athletic though, as the other guys. And then the last one there, Dallas Gant from
Mm,
Toledo, pretty solid prospect as well.
yeah. I also like D lineman out of Oregon, Taimani, I believe how you say his name. I saw a clip and I saw
Okay.
videos, and I remember just going on Twitter, and the biggest thing Viking fans were saying after the draft was, man, we didn't get the big interior D lineman to like stuff up runs. Like we don't have the big boy. And I saw this Taki guy. I'm like, oh, there's the big boy. That's what we're looking for. We need that big guy. So I like that pickup too. You know, if you need to want to run a 3-4 every once in a while to mix up looks, you could put them at right in the middle, big guy, would force double teams. I like it.
Yeah, and then other teams that I didn't have anyone listed on the script for, but the Cardinals, a couple guys I really like. Xavier Weaver from Colorado. Again, I didn't really get the Tajon Palmer drafting. I have no clue who that guy is, but Xavier Weaver I do know. Pretty solid season last year at Colorado. Really like him. Miles Murphy from North Carolina, the edge rusher. That's what they needed. He might be a little too big to play on the outside linebacker, but I think I can't remember. No, Jonathan Gannon does run a 4.3, I think. So that's perfectly fine, actually. And then they got a long snapper as well, Joe Shimko. Do you have anyone for the Falcons? Because I don't see anyone on
Falcons. John Paddock out of Illinois. Austin Stogner, tight end out of Oklahoma.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I
Love
saw that name. Let's see. Jaquay Jackson, wide receiver at Rutgers. Ryan Call, offensive lineman in Richmond. Jaden Price, quarterback at North Dakota State. Trey Vavell, Minnesota State. And Ryan Sandberg, punter out of Texas.
Oh, Ryan Sanborn.
Yeah, Sanborn, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one for Atlanta.
Yeah.
How about the Ravens?
Ravens, they got Bo Braid. That was the guy I kind of want to see the Vikings get.
Goodness.
They ended up getting him. I'm trying to think of other big names. They still have Ty James listed here, even though he shouldn't. Isaiah Washington out of Rutgers, D'Angelo Hardy, NC State, Dayton Wade, Ole Miss, Tavion Robinson, Kentucky. So they really
those two receivers are pretty good. Robinson and Wade. Robinson, that's Wandale Robinson's brother, I believe, or cousin.
Let's see what are names. Coley Bollock, Maryland, Darian Dalcutt, Alabama, Cam Stutz, Auburn. He's invited to minicamp. Joe Evans, edge out of Iowa.
Oh my, yeah.
Yeah.
Evans is a stud.
Yeah.
He had a couple big games last year. I remember he was dominating. I forget. It was I want to say Illinois game. I think he crushed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who else? Jaminian Franklin, D lineman out of Duke. And our D lineman Tremel Wathor out of Georgia. Your boy, your dog. Linebacker
Wharton.
Yeah. I think that's how I say the name. Linebacker John McCartan out of Oregon State. Linebacker Vandy Rigby out of Temple. And then long snapper Randon Plattner out of
Kansas State. Dude, that's a really good one. Plattner, he might have been the top long snapper on my board from Kansas State. I know I tried to recruit him for our combine, but yeah, I think they still have Morgan Cox though, so I don't know if they're looking for one. I only have one player listed here for the Panthers, and it's Jack Plummer, out of Louisville, formerly of Purdue, but
Jalen Coker out of Holy Cross is going. Yes, I like that pickup.
That one I was very excited about. Very excited about Coker.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know many of these other names. I'll just throw a couple out. Cameron Wire out of Tulane. Derek McClendon out of Colorado. Kenny Dyson Jr. out of Bryant. Taylor Upshaw out of Arizona. So a lot of edge.
I'm gonna look at the same list as you. So
yeah. I don't know a ton of names here.
Yeah, in terms of guys that missed on some of the other teams potentially. Like the Bills, Gunnar Watson invited to minicamp. Troy quarterback, love that one. Keaton Bills from Utah, the guard. That's a solid selection. David Ugwogbu from Oklahoma. That's good. Al Walcott, the Baylor safety, invited to minicamp. I like that. And then Jack Browning, the punter from San Diego State, excellent player at that position. But yeah, for the Panthers, Coker. I also like Coastal Carolina Sam Pinckney as well. Andrew Rames, center from Oklahoma, excellent. Oh my God, Zion Tupuola-Fatui. I know it says unconfirmed, but if that is confirmed, that's awesome. Getting him as an edge rusher. Papo Amave, yeah, from Oregon, big dude in the middle there. Jackson Mitchell from UConn, excellent linebacker. I like Willie Drew from Virginia State as corner. And then Damani Richardson, Texas A&M safety as well. Harrison Mevis, Missouri, man. I would not be surprised. If he pushes what's his face. I don't know why I forget our kicker's name. Eddie Pinheiro. Yeah, Mevis, man, he had some good kicks. For the Bears, I think we already listed all the guys that I like there. The Bengals, Rocky Lombardi, quarterback from Northern Illinois. I had QB3 as one of the needs for the Bengals. So maybe my boy from Rusty's Huskies school can get it done there. I know there was a lot of people talking about Cole Burgess from SUNY Cortland. He signed in Cincy. Aaron Casey, great linebacker from Indiana. Miami Njongmeta from Wisconsin as well. And then they got a good punter. Austin McNamara is excellent from Texas Tech.
Yeah.
For the Browns here, Aiden Robbins from BYU. That's a good one. They also have Ty James listed in Cleveland.
Yeah.
For some odd reason.
Yeah, they haven't updated this.
Trayton Welch, good tight end from Wyoming. Jalen Sundell, North Dakota State. Javian Cohen from Missouri, not Miami. Or no, Miami. Never mind. I was thinking Javon Foster. Yeah, Cohen from Miami. Both good line pickups there. Winston Reed, good linebacker from Weber State. For the Cowboys, Nathaniel Pete from Missouri, pretty solid back there. Corey Crooms, good receiver from Minnesota. Brevin Spanford, another Golden Gopher going to Dallas. Like that one. Jason Johnson, good linebacker from UCF. Josh DeBerry from A&M, good safety prospect. The Broncos, we already talked about Blake Watson. Lincoln Victor from Washington State's a good player. Thomas Yasmin, nice tight end pickup. Oh, my gosh. They got the flow himself. Frank Crum, the Wyoming tackle. The Golden Locks running down the field. I love Alec Mock, Air Force. Good one. Lavelle Bailey's another linebacker that I like, Fresno State. Nick Constantino from Texas A&M, punter. Isaiah Williams, the Lions, got a good receiver there. They got two. Jalen Calhoun from Duke. Oh, Isaac Rex from BYU is excellent. Kingsley Agwakin from Florida. I like that one. Isaac Ukwu from Ole Miss. Edge rusher there. Steel Chambers, Ohio State. Oh, my goodness. They got one of my favorite players. Maurice Norris from Fresno State. He's a safety, not a corner, but the Lions needed safety depth, and Norris is a guy I really liked when I put on the tape there. The Packers, Donovan Jennings from USF is a good one. Trente Jones, Michigan's a good guard prospect. Raylan Goforth from Washington, it's good. Alex McNulty's a good kicker from Buffalo. Peter Bowden, Wisconsin long snapper. That's a nice pickup. British Brooks for the Texans, running back, North Carolina, like that. What I love the Texans did is they did what the Vikings didn't do. They signed the brothers together. Jaden
Hey.
and Jackson Yankee, the South Dakota
Hey, if
State.
Gabe Murphy's brother wanted to come to the Vikings, maybe he shouldn't have sucked. All right.
The Yankee brothers from the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, awesome careers for SDSU, and signing in Houston. Hopefully, it's going to be tough if one of them makes the roster and the other doesn't. Love Max Tooley, BYU linebacker. I had him on my board, didn't get drafted, but I like him a lot. Colts getting some quarterbacks. Interesting. Jason Bean from Kansas, Keaton Slovers from from BYU, I should say. He used to play at USC. BYU. He hasn't played at USC in a long time. But yeah, BYU for Keaton Slovers. I like Bean in that matchup there. I don't really like a lot of the other stuff for the Colts. Jags, I mentioned Cephas there. Joseph Skates, good wideout from Memphis as well. You can see what I mean. The Jags needing some depth at wide receiver. They signed 5 wide receivers. Andre Carter's a good interior D line from Indiana. Josh Proctor, the safety from Ohio State's pretty good. The Chiefs, Spencer Sanders, Ole Miss quarterback. Actually, Oklahoma State. Or no, he did play at Ole Miss last year. I forgot. Mentioned the running backs. Oh, dang, did they got another running back? They invited a camp. Trey Potts, former Minnesota Golden Gopher, played at Penn State last year. Phillip Brooks from Kansas State. Excellent return man. I'm surprised he didn't get drafted. Baylor Cups, good tight end from Texas Tech. Oh, man, they got Ethan Driscoll, big 6'8" tackle from Marshall. Love that for KC. Oh, they got my guy, the only really draftable player from East Stroudsburg this year. Edge rusher Deshaun McCarthy invited to minicamp. Hopefully he can make it, man. Go Warriors. Oh, man, they got a beast. Defensive tackle Fabian Lovett from Florida State. Bryce Gallagher, linebacker for Northwestern. I like that one. They got, like you said, my guy Curtis Jacobs from Penn State. Chris Roland Wallace from USC is a good corner there. Noah Rauschenberg, North Texas. He's a kickoff specialist. So will be interesting to see what they do. And they got Ryan Reckow from BYU, the punter. I think that's an upgradable position in Kansas City as punter. Over Tommy Townsend's not that great.
Yeah. I gotta get going, so have a good rest of the UDF. Just know none of them are going to be as good as Ivan Pace. Vikings hit it right.
The Raiders like tight end Mason Pline from Furman. They got Andrew Coker, TC. I don't know where he's actually going. Will Putnam's a good center from Clemson. Mentioned Ron Stone. For the Chargers, let's see what we got. Jalen Gill from Fresno State's a good one. Leon Johnson from Oklahoma State's good receivers there. Oh, my dude, the Chargers got one of my favorite tight ends, Zach Hines, South Dakota State. Could push for that starting tight end spot. I wouldn't be surprised. Carson Barnhart's good lineman from Michigan, of course. Jim Harbaugh signing his guy. Tremont Morris Brash from UCF's a good edge rusher there. I like Thomas Harper, the defensive back from Notre Dame. It's a solid player. The other team in LA there, the Rams, getting Drake Stoops, wide receiver from Oklahoma. That's good. Sam Wiglusz from Ohio as well is pretty solid. And Anthony Goodlow, good edge rusher from Oklahoma State. Tuli Gasanoa, the big nose tackle from Washington. Love that play for the Rams. Omar Spate's a good linebacker from Oregon State and LSU. Josh Wallace, a good corner from Michigan. For the Dolphins, they got my guy UTEP quarterback Gavin Hardison. I like that one. They needed to upgrade the backup quarterback there. Andrew Meyer from UTEP, good tackle prospect. Grayson Murphy, there's Gabriel's brother from UCLA. Edge rusher going to Miami. What are they? Another freaking edge rusher. Why not? Mikey Victor is a good corner from Alabama State. Storm Duck from Louisville, another corner there. Mark Perry, excellent safety from TCU. For Jimmy's Vikings here, we already talked about a bunch of these guys. I don't think there's anyone else want to talk about there. For the Patriots, mentioned earlier, Oregon State running back to Sean Fenwick. I really like him. Charles Turner talked about Jay Person from Chattanooga. That guy is a monster. He had like over 8 sacks in like every season for last 4 years. Excellent player in Jay Person. John Trey Hunter's a good linebacker from Georgia State. Saints wise, I think I talked about all of these guys here. For the Giants, Chris Altman-Bell's a good wide receiver from Minnesota. Ovie Ogafu from LSU is good edge player there. Jets, they got Darren Granger from Georgia State. I really enjoyed his tape this past year. Tyler Harrell from Miami is a good wide receiver, former Alabama player there. Brady Latham, Arkansas lineman. Braden McGregor from Michigan's good D-line player there. Eric Watts from UConn, big interior D-line player. Leonard Taylor, one of the better edge rushers available in the undrafted free agent market from Miami. But Jarius Monroe is a good corner from Tulane. Zion Puckett from Auburn, good safety. Eagles, I mentioned Kendall Milton. Tight end McAllen Castles really like that. They needed some help at the tight end depth there. I mentioned Donkwood Hall. For the Steelers, got Dejon Edwards, John Rice Plumlee. Listen to wide receiver on here. That's very intriguing. Julius Welshoff is a good player from Charlotte, edge rusher. Beanie Bishop mentioned him. For the 49ers, Tanner Mordecai from Wisconsin. Like that. Need some depth there behind Brock Purdy. Cody Schrader's good player at running back. Unfortunately, though, they already drafted one. Tariq Owens, had to mention him from Missouri State. Terrell Owens' son. Drake Nugent's excellent center from Michigan. The Seahawks there. Tamarick Williams, good player, running back at North Dakota State. Hayden Hatton's excellent. Idaho wide receiver, love that. Richard Jubinor's good motor player from Troy. Sundiata Anderson, Grambling State, a guy that a lot of people thought was going to get drafted as well as I did. Aaron Beasley's excellent edge player from Tennessee, can play linebacker as well. Easton Gibbs, one of my favorite linebackers out of Wyoming. He's a good motor player there. Carlton Johnson, the corner from Fresno State's pretty solid. For the Bucks, Jeremy Musa from Florida A&M. He had some excellent tape at FAMU there. Mentioned Judge Culpepper, Kalen DeLoach. Rashad Wisdom, safety from UTSA, is a player to watch. Hard hitter there. The Titans, mentioned the running backs. Xavier Gadlin from Liberty, good interior O-line prospect there. Khalid Duke, that's an excellent steal for Tennessee. Defensive end from Kansas State. Gabe Judy Lally is a good corner from Tennessee. Keaton Ellis, my guy, safety from Penn State, like that one. And then finally, the Commanders here, they got quarterback Sam Hartman from Notre Dame. Pretty good. Austin Jones, running back from USC. Michael Wiley, running back from Arizona. Both good players there. My guy Marcus Rosemy, Jack Saint from Georgia, the wide receiver. And then my mentee, Ben, his favorite player, safety Tyler Owens for Texas Tech, one of the best players available, undrafted free agent market there. All right. Moving on here, we have some signings to talk about. The Raiders are signing former Cowboys wide receiver Michael Gallup on a 1-year, $3 million deal here. I like that. They needed some wide receiver depth in Vegas, so I think that's a good dart throw there. And then the Eagles, they signed Jets offensive tackle Mekhi Becton, 1-year, $5.5 million max value deal there. Absolutely love that. I think he's going to go to Jeff Stoutland. You learn a lot, and I think he's going to be an awesome swing tackle for the Eagles this year. The Bills, they signed Lions wide receiver Quintez Cephas, coming off his reinstatement from the 1-year gambling suspension. Good depth signing for Buffalo. The Cowboys, they signed Patriots running back Ezekiel Elliott back in Dallas after a couple years in New England. And he's the starting running back, which is absolutely hilarious. And then finally, the Saints, they hosted Giants guard Shane Lemieux, looking for more O-line depth there. And then the Raiders, they hosted Chargers wide receiver Jalen Guyton, again, looking for wide receiver depth in Vegas. That is the show for today. It's pretty long, but we had a lot to go through with the draft. Next Monday, we'll be talking UFL Week 7. We'll have all your UFL Week 6 game recaps, as well as the college football and NFL news. And we'll also start our team draft recaps, talking about the Bears and the Commanders as we move into kind of the dead period of the NFL season in the summer. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and X, FAA_bets on X as well. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, etc., and TikTok at Football Addicts and Non. We'll see you all back on Football Friday.